This is Cockpits and Cocktails. We use this podcast to share stories and talk about all things aviation and aerospace. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Cheers to you and enjoy.
Hey guys, it's Cockpits and Cocktails. I'm Fly Alyssa, and not with us tonight, we have Natalie Fly Girl Kelly. We are so excited to bring you this new episode of Cockpits and Cocktails. Tonight, we have extra special guests. We have Erin Lear, otherwise known as Elle or Jet Blondie. How are you, my dear?
Hi guys, I'm doing really well.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. I see you were at Reno recently. Has Reno always been a part of your life, or was this your first time? Or tell us a little bit about it.
Reno has been always a part of my life. I was born there and raised there up until about age 13. I have the best support group there in terms of my friends and some family. And I love going to the Reno air races. This year was super special. However, I didn't get to see you in person. I'm sure I will next year. I know. But
I was so sad after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love Reno. It's the most well-kept secret.
Yeah, exactly. This year was kind of exciting. They've got a lot of new things going on there. And I just feel like next year is going to be like bigger and better, and they're moving in the right direction to get some younger blood in there. So I think
absolutely.
That's
Reno Air Races was so fun this year, and they had a ton of influencers there. I was really pleasantly surprised, really, with the whole event. It was so fun. And it was great because I saw a lot of, schools and children. And I actually got to meet some younger female pilots who are doing acrobatic work already. And it was just so warming to my heart because it's so inspirational to see younger females, getting excited about aviation and all sorts of stuff like that.
Absolutely. I think that's like my favorite part. This has probably been my favorite event of the entire year, this at all. And I can't imagine topping it. There was so much for kids and young females and very inviting atmosphere. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring next year. So, so tell me how you are involved in aviation. We'll take it way back. You have the Lear last name. What relevance is that?
So I grew up in the Lear family. My grandfather was Bill Lear, the inventor of the Lear Jet and Motorola and the 8-track. So we always grew up around airplanes out at the Stead Airport, actually, where the media tent was. Where media was being held was actually in our old hangar. So it was very nostalgic for me to be there and kind of, feel it out. And just, though it looks a little bit different, I kind of was picking up those vibes. And it was very interesting to, be in our old hangar. So growing up in the Lear family, there was never a dull moment, especially, at the Stead hangar, and we have a ton of characters in our family. So it kind of starts there.
Yeah, that's really cool. No. Did you always grow up knowing that you would be involved in aviation some?
Absolutely not. I have definitely gone through a series of different events in my life trying to find my way. And I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs go through is, I've dabbled in real estate and I've dabbled in the skincare and CBD markets. And I just, though I love those things, I found that, when I first started flying, that my passion for that was deeply embedded, and it felt like the right path, flight path, pun intended. for me to be on. And wow, I've gotten so much great media attention and people really excited about this new venture that I'm going on with Birdie Academy, which is centered around predominantly females wanting to get their pilot's license. And so we're going to probably start with a pop-up school, and then, and I'll get into that in a minute, but the actual school will be centered around electric airplanes. But because of COVID and the pandemic, it has slowed our process down in the certification for by Aerospace's eFlyer. So we are waiting. We're literally waiting around for the FAA to, approve its safety model and everything like that. So until then, we want to do a pop-up school, and the pop-up school will enable us to travel to different schools all around the country and integrate a 2 to 4 week program that we will be marketing heavily towards females and minorities and getting scholarships. It's going to be a nonprofit. So there's all sorts of things that are leading up to this event now. And I got to say, as an entrepreneur, it has not been easy to arrive at this point. And though, I've always loved being around airplanes, I will say it's taken me a minute to get here. However, I think my first initial experience of hearing a jet take off the tarmac and that noise was probably the most inspiring, in moment of that thought process of, wow, I want to be like a part of that. You know what I mean? Or I want that, more of that in my life, and so that's really what, that was deeply embedded in me ever since I was a little girl.
Yeah. Now, are you a pilot yourself as well? Are you going to be instructing in this program, or?
So I'll just be the face of the company. I love flying. I actually am very close to getting my certification, but I don't believe I'll be a CFI or anything like that because I'll be busy helping promote and more of the ambassador of the company.
That's awesome. I feel like there's so much that if you're not an entrepreneur, people don't realize what goes into building this system of, the nonprofit and the electric airplane sounds really cool. I can't wait to find out more about that. And, just these programs that are reaching the minorities and reaching women are so special to me just because I did this at 29, not at 12 or 16 or, I didn't even know that people flew airplanes at that point. So yeah, I think that's really awesome. But I think it's cool that you're like, no, I just want to run the company and, enjoy it for fun as a pilot.
Yeah. So what about you? What level of certification are you at?
So I'm right now doing my instrument rating, and I've got about 350 hours. I started 4 years ago. So I got my pilot's license, and I remember my DPE asking me right after my tech ride, he said, so what's next? And I was like, there's nothing. Like, I didn't know any pilots at that point. And so I said, I have my pilot's license. I'm done. And he's like, oh, girl, he's like, you're just starting. He's like, you have something special here. He's like, for as little experience as you have, you're doing great. So, I just kind of had fun with it for a long time. And now it's like, I need to move myself along, not necessarily to go to airlines, but to help inspire and empower other people. I think just having that education in my instrument, my commercial, and maybe CFI one day would just help me, facilitate me to help others. So
fantastic. And that's our mission really too, is to inspire women all over the world. And maybe you should just come work with us.
Absolutely. I'm in. Every time we do a podcast and we meet someone new, I instantly think like, oh, I have to volunteer for that organization, or maybe I want to be a flight attendant now, or maybe I want to do, corporate flying. There's so many opportunities in aviation. And I think, just getting our younger generation excited about aviation, then we can lead them to all of the opportunities, whether it be an entrepreneur or, flying for a living, or, a flight attendant, or, corporate aviation. There's just so many options.
There really are so many options out there. And also STEM. I wanted to bring STEM up to back up what you were just saying, because I'm actually on the board for a company called Soken Engineering, and they are promoting to get more females involved in anything computer science related, engineering, mathematics, all that type of stuff. So technology, it's really cool to be a part of them. And and I really think that we're coming into an era where females are starting to trend. Like I see, and I've actually talked to quite a few people who've seen the same thing, where we're seeing a lot of promotion going on with like females in aviation. You know what I mean? And that's my whole MO too, and I think it's such a great time for us to be promoting this and be talking about this and helping women discover what their dream is, or I call it like the flying bug, because it's so fun. When I first started flying, I was, of course, freaked out and scared. And I'm like, I am never going to be able to do this alone. And then I did my solo cross country from Torrance Airport to San Diego, and then San Diego to Catalina. And I have to say that it was my aha moment, like of one of my biggest moments of life, like was that moment when I touched down in San Diego and the tower came on and started yelling at somebody, and I thought it was me for sure. And it wasn't. It was some other, somebody not following instructions, a male, go figure, but not following instructions. And I had that moment where I was like, I did it. Like, I can do this. And, I like pretty much had like tears in my eyes. It's just, just going, oh my God, I'm flying this plane alone. And it's, it's not horribly hard, there's a learning curve, and I'm really good at math and that type of stuff. So for me, I really liked doing some of the calculations in case the avionics were to fail and stuff like that. So that was really fun for me. And that was, yes, my aha moment.
I think when you're learning to fly, it's something that you never really saw yourself doing if you didn't, even you grew up around it, but to me, it's like, that is so far-fetched that I can fly an airplane. And sometimes I'm flying by myself and I'm like, is this real right now? Like, how am I staying in the air and like whatever? And, it's just like the proudest moment of my life, getting my pilot's license, and sharing that feeling with other people is what it's all about for me. And you talked about like landing at an airport and somebody getting yelled at. And I'm always, I don't know if it's like being a female that I feel extra criticized. I'm one of 4 females that probably fly at my airport. And so I'll get a text message from a controller, because we all know each other. It's a small area, and they'll be like, oh, you just had a runway incursion. And I was like, no, I didn't. I'm at work. And they're like, no, you just ran across the runway in 20 Lima Lima. And I was like, I'm at work. It was some other female's voice. So I feel like there's just always so much pressure as a female. Like, I feel extra like pinpointed.
Judgment. So yeah, I hear you.
I make sure I'm like on top of my game. So
100%. Yeah, I hear you for sure.
Yeah. So with the birdie, like, how is that going to be set up? And like, are you guys just going to be like a scholarship based, or are people able to purchase these flight, trainings, or how does that work?
Well, Lisa, we're really ironing out a lot of the kinks as we speak, but what we would ideally like to do is create this nonprofit so it helps people want to donate, because the mission here is to get more females into aviation. And plus we have the pilot shortage issue that we need to conquer. I've talked to plenty of pilots that are working right now in the commercial space, and they're telling me all the same thing, that there is a major pilot shortage. And with the increase of travel coming up in the following years, that we're going to need pilots, and it's going to be an issue. So I think that we're really, conquering two things, which is females, like to help change the numbers. There's only 7% females compared to the 93% males. So we're shifting and making it more of an equal area of opportunity. And then on top of that, the pilot issue, the pilot shortage issue. So what we want to do is roll out the pop-up school program and be able to partner with different schools. So we'll do like a little private license thing, and we'll get people to donate first for probably a couple spots, depending on, how many students we have at each location. We're hoping to get a couple scholarships so that some people will be able to come and do their private and then partner up with the school in that area, or that at that particular school that wants to go the full ride. So we're going to get creative. Nobody's ever done this before, so it's a little bit of a gray area where we're still figuring out how it's all going to work. But it'll be the very first pop-up female academy. So we're excited.
I love it. I think that's super amazing. Are you guys going to be focused on, high school, college? Like, is there going to be like a set?
We're still working on how and who, but I believe that a lot of integration of people who are interested in taking a program in college, we're going to definitely be looking into partnerships with colleges and stuff like that.
Now with the STEM program, I can't remember what you said it was called, but like, what are you guys typically doing with that? Are you working with younger, like how young are you guys working with? Or
so SOKN Engineering, it's SOKN Engineering. They are based out of Montana. Their mission is also aligned with ours to help get females interested in careers in the aviation space. And I'm not sure how young they start, but I'm assuming that it would be, at a college level where they're, able to start to get interested in a career choice. Like, I'm not sure exactly what the age is. That's a really good question, and I'll check and get back to you on that. But they're inspiring women. They're pushing to get women interested in careers. And so that's really their MO. And also, one of the cool factors that SOKN and I have is that Zara Rutherford, I don't know if you know who she is.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so she is actually sponsored by SOKN. And I am one of Zara's mentors. So it just kind of happened organically, and we didn't know that she was getting sponsored by SOKN, and then SOKN didn't know that I was asked to mentor her. So it was one of those moments where we're like, oh, like
it only makes sense that you work together. And
Right. And so, but it was so serendipitous and really, really nice to be working with a bunch of super solid female individuals in the aviation space. And Zara is such a cool person. I got to Zoom with her. She was supposed to come into Montana, fly in, and there was a problem with the oil in the plane, so she got held up. But then I had to go to Reno Air Races, so I couldn't wait. And anyway, we will meet her. We're entertaining going to see her either in Belgium or potentially Geneva at MBAA. But until then, I got to talk to her on Zoom, and I sent her a playlist of music to listen to. And she was, I think, pretty excited to hear that. I often am wondering what she's thinking up there, and I'm sure there's so many nerves and stuff going on. She's only 19 years old, but she's.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. I briefly spoke to her, but I think about me flying and just flying cross country for a weekend adventure, and she's flying around the world. And, not only are you young and female, you're flying to countries you don't speak their language, and just all of these barriers, and to just, be doing it at 19 and inspiring even younger. I just think that's awesome.
It's awesome. It's truly amazing. You just touched on one of the things that I'm like, how is she communicating with the towers? In each different country.
Well, all English. It's all English, but you land in Mexico, nobody, there's going to be very minimal that want to come and speak to you in English. And I would assume that, her team that has set up her stops, and they've reached out before she gets to those places, so they are, ready for her when she does arrive.
Yeah.
Those things are already in place, but that's a lot of planning and a lot of stress, and to meet those deadlines and weather. And I don't think I could do it.
I don't think I could either. Honestly, I'm really inspired by her, because when I think about doing that, I'm like, maybe I should go around the world. I'm like, wait, nope. I'm going to stay here and focus on my business. But man, I am in awe of what she's doing, and her message is spreading rapidly around the world. So we're really.
I think it's awesome to be so young as her is doing this. It made me think about earlier when we were talking about age, and when people start kind of getting into what they're interested in, STEM and that kind of thing. I always knew that I was better at math than English. But I wasn't really interested in anything in school because I was bored. And so I just didn't care. But we had the conversation with STEM Flights a couple weeks ago that, they used to be focused towards high school females and high school students and pushing women into those STEM fields. But they're seeing now that by high school, they've already kind of made up their mind that they're not going into the STEM stuff, or they are. So now they're targeting even younger as junior high. And so it just makes me think about every time I'm around 10, 11, 12-year-old kids, I'm like, you're influencing them. You have to be very good with your intentions and kind of feed these things that they are capable of doing crazy awesome things like Zara at 19,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that personally, I think aviation is this and aerospace is this really sexy, smart industry. And maybe sexy is not the right word, but it's it's very attractive industry where, for me, I'm just in awe of some of these women who and men who are highly intelligent beings focusing on the aviation and aerospace industry. To me, it's the coolest thing ever. I don't understand why more people wouldn't want to do that if there was an opportunity to. So that's part of my mission too, is really showing the cool aspects of it. Because I would consider myself a pretty hip person. So, and I've experienced and dabbled with different industries, and I gotta say, though there's a lot of older community in aviation, I feel like that there's this trending aspect to aerospace and aviation right now that we need to capitalize on, and we need it. You know what I mean? And so, yeah.
I look at Instagram. You know, I'm not a huge like dig into everybody else's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I see that everybody wants to travel. I see that everybody wants to have this strong, fierce, persona. And I'm like, that's aviation. That is what we encompass. And it's not just aviators, but I see it in so many people. I actually think I saw your photo that Reno had posted after the fact, walking by the airplane. And I'm like, she's a badass. Like, just the picture encompasses what I feel as a pilot, what I feel in the aviation industry, and as a female, how good I feel. And men as well. And pilots are smart and good at decision making, and there's just so much complexity to it. And I just think it's sexy isn't the word for it, but like strong and confident, and there's just so much to it that
there's a lot of attraction there. Like, and I gotta say, like, I mean, I haven't gone the full way as far as getting, my instrument rating or anything like that, but I do know that it can't be that hard. You put your mind towards anything you want. You want it enough, you can do anything you want to do.
Absolutely.
So, and it's very well put that, about, where was I going? No, wait, I want to go back to what you were saying and show you some gratitude for pointing out the whole Reno Air Races photo, because I had so much fun doing that shoot, and that photographer was really badass himself. But I want to do more stuff like that, because I feel like it does reach people like you and other women that see it as inspiration. And that's the whole point. People are like, are you a model, or are you, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm all of it. Can you wrap your head around that, please?
Yeah. So I think that's
I'm not just doing one thing.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing when somebody asks me. So I was at the Reno Air Races and someone was like, so what do you do? Why are you here? And I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that. Like, do you want me to tell you that I'm a pilot? Do you want me to tell you that I do marketing? Do you want me to tell you that I work for XYZ companies? Like, I feel like as aviation as a whole, nobody does one thing. Every pilot, every person has a million things going on. It's like every one of us are like ADHD and super complex and super intricate. And it's like we're this crazy breed of people, and you're my people. It's like everybody's a scuba diver, everybody's a pilot, and I'm just like, that's what I do. Like, where did you people come from? Like, how did we not know that you existed before now?
Welcome to my world, because I deal with this issue all the time. Like, how do I introduce myself?
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of different things, but I want to also relate to people too. And so yes, I hear you there. I struggle with the same thing all the time.
And I think it's also, for me, like, Jet Blondie is kind of your thing, but like, you don't go say, hey, I'm Jet Blondie. Like, or like, I'm super awkward about it in person. If somebody calls me Fly Alyssa, I'm like, oh, cringy. But like, it's part of it. It's like, we're doing it to reach other generations and other people. We're not doing it to promote, my name.
There's not not a huge ego behind it. There is a method to the madness, for sure.
Absolutely.
There is a method to the madness. And it's important for people like you and me to stick together too and help stay on track with the mission. But there's always going to be those people out there that are like, oh, Jet Blondie, or oh, Alyssa, like it's part of the whole, shebang.
I get it. Yeah. But it's really hard to convey like what you're about and what you're doing when somebody asks you like what you're doing at the Reno Air Races. And, it was just very like, I think one of the first times that I'm baffled. Like, I don't to say. Do you bring out a card that has like everything that you're doing? Like Birdie, electric airplanes,
Just, yeah. Jet Blondie, modeling. No.
Yeah, like modeling, actor. Is it Lear Avia? Lear Avia?
Lear Avia is the umbrella company for Birdie.
Okay. Yeah. So I was like, just put this all on your business card, tiny print.
Exactly.
So,
by the way, I'm also flight attendant certified, but I've never done a job in the field. But I don't go around. Yeah, I don't go around saying it. But yes, I have my certification for that too. Because at one point I was, still finding my way and figuring out what I wanted to do, and I love learning. But
I think too, for me, I'm 33. For women in their 30s, this is our prime. This is when women shine. Yeah. But to get to this point, I feel like now it's more acceptable to find your own way younger. But like when I graduated high school, it was like, are you going to college, the military, or a trade? It was not like, you had XYZ. Are you going to be a nurse, an accountant, or this, and that was my thought process. And so I went to business school. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but now there's so many more opportunities and outreach and things that you can get involved in younger. But I think because we had that, our teens and 20s before now, I did cake decorating, and I own a salon and I do hair, and there's all of these other things that I did. Now I'm like, okay, I'm in my 30s now. Let's do this damn thing.
Yeah. Well, I want to touch on something that kind of correlates to what you just said, and that is, there's not one way to do something. Like, it's okay if you change directions at a certain point. That's what an entrepreneur really is. And you will always take did you get your MBA? Was it your MBA that you got, or did you just went to business school? Okay. So you will always take that and be able to carry it with you in everything that you do. I mean, that is a really beneficial asset to have. I will say Bill Lear, my grandfather, he had an 8th grade education. He dropped out at 8th grade and went to the library and studied on his own. So he didn't go through college. He was the guy in school telling the teachers that they were wrong.
I love it.
And, and he was like, screw this. I'm going to go teach myself the important things. And, and again, he dabbled in car radios. He dabbled in color TV and 8-tracks. You know what I mean? And then went to the Lear Jet. I mean, there's the true entrepreneur right there with a success story. And so for me, I've always kind of tried to remember that. And sometimes people, everybody's different. And so like for me, I've had to deal with people who are like, you should just focus on one thing and one thing only and da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, I'm never going to be that person because yes, one thing successfully, but also 2 or 3 other things over here successfully as well. There's no reason why I can't do it all, especially if I have the right team behind me to support me in those things that I need help with. You know what I mean? There's no reason why you can't do that. And I will say that and always stand my ground on that because my grandfather and his story. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and all of the things that you might be doing might kind of come together at the end of the day and like feed on each other where, it's like we have the podcast and I do some marketing and I work for a couple companies in sales. And so they all kind of mesh together at the end of the day when I'm at an air show and, I'm there doing one thing, but some other thing might be needed, so yeah, I like multifaceted people and I am that entrepreneur. I was opening my salon. I've done hair for 14 years now, but I was opening my salon and getting my private pilot license at the same time. And my brain was exploding. But, it's like that's where I think entrepreneurs like have this huge growth is when we have many things going on, but one thing booms at one time and maybe it's 2 years later this other thing. So I think it's very important to keep your mind open.
Absolutely. And Alyssa, did you, first of all, I was an esthetician for 8 years. So I worked in and out of the spa industry, and, was finding my way. But it is okay to do multifaceted things. And what I wanted to ask you was, don't you think that it's interesting that pilots have to multifunction, like they are multitasking while operating an airplane? So, I mean, it makes a little sense, like with how you and I are speaking with our mindset and everything, to correlate with the fact that we do love flying because we like to multitask in one way, right? Do you get it?
Yeah, I think it's important because, I mean, when I'm flying the airplane, I might be listening to music, but then I'm listening to controllers, I'm monitoring everything, but then I'm also like tuned back into what's happening in my life. And like some of my like best like aha moments of like I had a really great thought and I write it down while I'm flying. It's like a business idea or something comes to you just because like you have that time and it's
The moment the plane is really cool. It's actually pretty safe compared to other planes that are out there and older. So I really can't wait to fly in one. I haven't flown in one yet, but they do have the prototype already done. It's in Denver, Colorado. And they're doing really amazing things. Now, there's some other electric airplanes that are out there on the market, like Pipistrel, and though they're a great company and they're technically one of the first ones out there. Pipistrel, they only do about 40 minutes in the air, give or take, and that to me was just not for me, not worth it. Thinking of like, when I was flying and getting my pilot's license, I wanted to be up there for at least an hour, and and obtaining those hours and stuff. So one of the cool things about incorporating this into our school is that it reduces the operation costs. So that will reduce the price point to, obtain your license, but will also be a win-win. What's that?
Yeah, if you can minimize the cost of flight training and the overhead, think of how many more people you can reach. And when you were talking about this eFlyer, I was thinking like 45 minutes or something for a charge. And, I remember training and like, you'd want to go for at least an hour and, a couple times a week, because you just need that repetition and time. And 30 minutes, you could get a couple touch and goes, and then you'd have to land and you'd have to be within the vicinity of the airport. So I think having that 2-hour range even is going to be huge.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're hoping to incorporate the eFlyer sooner than later into our fleet. But until then, we're just going to, continue to promote and do fun shoots and get women excited about STEM and aviation in general. And continue to do our pop-up school. And that's really where we're at today and how we plan to continue for at least the next 1 to 2 years. Hopefully the eFlyer will be ready by 2023, maybe towards the middle or end. But, the first year there will only be 50 produced once we get the approval. Then there's like, I forget how many deposits George said, but there was something like 1,200 deposits already on the planes. And some commercial airliners have those deposits on these planes for their inside schools. So, I mean, this is huge. And we definitely are excited because we have first to market. So we'll have at least 1 or 2 of those planes within the first 50 that are produced. So we got in early. We're really excited to be on this venture.
That's super exciting. I actually just had somebody reach out to me about they were like, hey, do you know anything about this? And they're from California. So I wonder if it's the same company or what he was talking about. But yeah,
sure. It could be Pipistrel as well. Pipistrel is not quite there yet with the certification either. Everybody's working really hard to get the FAA to approve the process or to approve the planes. And it hasn't been easy from what I'm hearing, just because there's a lot of safety concerns and they don't want to, be unsafe. So it's important to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row, obviously. And but I think the future is bright. I see the trend here, right, with cars going electric and hybrids. Also, there's a company actually here in Hawthorne called Air. They're doing great things too, and they're converting an old Cessna into a hybrid and marketing their plane actually to areas like Hawaii, where you can do, island jumping with a plane that's going to reduce the operation costs. So it makes a lot of sense to, go to start to think, okay, history kind of repeats itself. And it's important to follow the trends that are happening, in my opinion. So we're looking at, the car industry, and we're seeing the electric and the hybrid. So why not with airplanes, right? So it is happening. I think it's just a timing thing where everybody's kind of waiting. But I think we're going to see it start to become more of a everyday thing, probably in the next 5 years would be my guess. And wow, I mean, the benefits of the noise reduction factor, like all these areas where they don't like the loud planes taking off, this is a great alternative. The sustainability factor, helping for the environmentalists out there, helping people travel and not feel guilty, and wrap their heads around it being environmentally conscious. Yeah.
I think that's really great. And, it's my thought is this is going to start happening. Is that going to prompt, the older planes being updated then to more of a hybrid situation, or kind of as a backup, or, it'll be interesting to see how that transition goes, because there's airplanes from so long ago. It's like I was flying around in, a Stearman, and I got to thinking, I was like, I wonder if anybody yet has put a glass panel in a Stearman. It's had to have happened, right? So just innovations and changing and kind of going with those. So
yeah, well, that's what I'm all about, is the innovation and, inspiring women. So
well, I think you're doing an amazing job at that.
Thank you.
Me for sure. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for Cockpits and Cocktails. Where can everybody find you on social media, online, your website, or how are they able to be a part of what you're doing?
The best way to contact me would be at jet_blondie on Instagram. And we do have birdie.academy up, but we're going to be reconstructing the website. So you can go check it out. My information's on there. So if you need to reach me via email, that's probably the best way to do it. So it's BIRDE.academy, and then at jet_blondie.
I can't wait to see what happens in the next year or two with Birdie, and I can't wait to be a part of it as well.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure speaking with you. You're doing great things too. So
thank you so much. Well, cheers.
Oh, cheers. Yes.
This has been a great episode of Cockpits and Cocktails. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and all the things, Podbean. So check us out. We can't wait to see you next time.